This is episode 84 of Ethics and Culture Cast from the University of Notre Dame's Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture. Welcome to episode 84 of Ethics and Culture Cast from Notre Dame's Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture. I'm Ken Hellenius, the communications specialist at the center. In this episode, we chat with Dr. Elvira Parravicini, the founder of the Neonatal Comfort Care Program at Columbia University Medical Center and the recipient of the 2024 Notre Dame Evangelium Vitae Medal, honoring her lifetime of work to support babies and families who receive a diagnosis of a life-limiting condition in utero. Let's sit down with this remarkable physician, pro-life hero, and disciple of Jesus Christ. Dr. Parravicini, thank you so much for coming to be with us here on the podcast, and congratulations and thank you for your work that is being honored with the Notre Dame Evangelium Vitae Medal.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very small and this award is really too big to me, but I accept in name of the babies that I serve, the family that I serve, and my team. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where did you do your studies? Kind of those sorts of things.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Italy, in a region north of Milano, a region where God is at the center of our life, basically. It's a very Catholic area. And I was raised in a family where there was a lot of love among us, and also God at the center of our life. And we have been educated to respect and follow God in everything we did, work, study, and things like this. And I then decided I went to high school, and then I decided to go to medical school. No one in my family was actually medical school. And myself and a friend of mine, we were really, really close. We decided to go to medical school with the ideal of helping people. Because we have to think about, at that time, we were in the late 70s, early 80s. And in Italy, there was a lot of ideal, help people, help poor, etc. And so we'll say, well, what can we do? For sure, take care of sick people is something important and significant. And so we decided to embark together to medical school.
And did you both finish?
Yes, and the funny thing is that, so the friend of mine, she wanted to be a OBGYN, an obstetrician, and I was not too much oriented toward that. I love babies, and so we were dreaming her to be a gynecologist and obstetrician, and me to take care of babies. And we actually finished medical school. We did our training, fellowship, everything, and then we ended up working for a few years in the same hospital, taking care of the same mothers and same babies.
So she would bring the baby into the world, and then you would care for the baby.
Yes, and at that time also, our hospital was busy. And so I remember she would call me when she did ultrasound on mothers expecting babies with problem. And I would give a consultation about what was going to happen to the baby afterwards, which kind of surgery or medical care we could give to the family. So then we could give them hope that there was a continuity of care in between her and me.
Wow. Well, now, how did you end up in the United States?
Good question. So, well, I belong to a lay association in the Catholic Church called Memoris Domini. And this is a decision for life to dedicate ourselves to our Lord. And we have houses of men and houses of women. And Father Giussani came to the decision to open a house for women in New York because there were some American ladies who wants to join our association. And so I was invited to come and to move here for that reason. So at that time, I was a doctor, a neonatologist in Monza, in a hospital close to Milano. And so I left my job and I came here in looking for adventures.
Well, you mentioned Father Giussani, who many Americans would know as the founder of Communion and Liberation. So Memoria Domini is part of Communion and Liberation. Maybe you can explain that for us, for those of us who don't know.
So communal liberation is a movement in the Catholic Church, like many other movements, and anybody can belong to the movement. Families, students, anybody. Is an education for faith, basically a companionship to live faith. Members Domini is a little part of communal liberation, is a group of people who decide to dedicate their life to Jesus in the Catholic Church according to the charism of communal liberation, and is a specific decision for a specific vocation. Okay, and but we do have houses pretty all over the world. Yeah.
So you come to the United States. I know you studied at Harvard, and now you work at Columbia University Medical Center, where you are the founder and head of the Neonatal Comfort Care Program. Tell us a little bit about the program. What does it do, and what led you to create this program?
So my mission is to save baby's life. That's what I say to families when they meet me during prenatal consultation. And my dream has been, through my life, to save all the babies. However, I realized sooner than later that I am not God, and I'm not the one in charge of the life of people. He's Him. And therefore, I realized that some babies, despite all my effort, all my experience, knowledge, etc., will have a short life. And I do want to have this profound desire to save those babies no matter what. And so I realized at a certain point in experience that to save the life of this baby meant to serve their destiny and to accept as it is. For a doctor, it's great when you can save a human being, but also it's great when you can stay with them till the very last moment, accompany them to their journey to the other world. And so when I realized that, I said, okay, I'm going to do this, but how can we manage the medical care of these babies? Because a baby could live for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 weeks, So it's not that life is short, but relatively short sometimes. And so I develop basically a medical approach, medical and nursing approach, to make sure that, first of all, family could bond to that child, and that child would live whatever life they live in complete comfort. We want to respect the length of life, whatever it is, the natural life. We can't decide, to shorten or to prolong artificially. And so the idea of our program was to serve those life also from a medical point of view, giving the all support which is needed. And in reality now, we speak about program, it seems like a big thing, but in reality I start on my own, just follow certain mothers who need my help for that point of view. I was in the delivery room when the baby was born. I took care of those babies for whatever life they had. And there was a nurse friend who volunteered to help me because it's a lot of work on top of my job. And we were dreaming at that time, think about a day when we can dedicate all our effort only to these patients. And we were dreaming. And then at a certain point, the dream came true. We met some donors, and we were able to basically hire a nurse and a social worker, and then another nurse eventually, and a manager. And so at a certain point, speaking with a friend, I said, well, we should call ourselves a program. We are a program. And so we put down the label, and here we are.
Ask for forgiveness later.
Exactly.
So on your team then, currently, tell us about the NCCP team.
Sure. I am the medical director, and we just hire an associate medical director. And then we have a senior nurse, a midwife nurse, a social worker, and a manager. And basically, myself and the other young doctor and the two nurses and the social worker are working in the clinical environment. And then we have a manager who takes care more of the organization and, the outreach and things like this.
Fantastic. Tell me about meeting a family. How first off, how are you introduced to families who you will be working with? And then what do those meetings look like?
Sure. So I work at Columbia University, and we have a very, very big maternal fetal medicine group. And many, many mothers come with high-risk pregnancy. And for some of them, there is the possibility that the baby eventually, when it's born, she will be born, will have a short life. So our obstetricians refer to us, those mothers, for a consult regarding the option of comfort care. And so is basically part of what is happening in the hospital. Those families are referred to us. And we want to meet those families as a team. So is for sure myself and a nurse and a social worker, or maybe it's the other doctor with the nurse and the social worker, because we want to address both the medical and nursing needs of the baby that needs to be born and the family, but also all the social, emotional, and spiritual needs of that family. And so we have a first encounter where we really want to welcome the family and make sure they understand that we care for them and for the baby. We are there in order to help them. We have no judgment about any choice they will make, but we are there to support them in loving their baby. That's a proposal. And when I sit down at the table in front of parents, I always say, I'm a neonatologist. My mission is to save baby's life. And so I'm here for you and your baby. And then the conversation starts, and I will ask whether they're boys or girls, if they want to share a name. For families, it's very important, for example, to be very personal. Like if I use the name of their baby they decide to give, they understand right away that we stand for them and for the baby, and that we will do anything possible to help the baby to make it. Because, one thing is they receive this diagnosis during pregnancy, and many of them will have a short life. But we do have sometimes exception. And so some of these babies maybe live much longer than we thought, and we are all happy. We are not a sad place waiting for someone to die, no? We always say to the parents, before death, there is life, and we want to live that life fully.
Yeah, beautiful. You use the word proposal, which is a very Jasonian word, right?
Yes.
And you also mentioned that you're meeting all the needs of the family, including spiritual. Tell me about the place of spirituality in your work.
Yeah, it's amazing that although we live in a world where God is put a little bit out from the horizon, when a family is facing such a dramatic situation, the vast majority of families express their own, spiritual, religious belonging. And so very, very often, the question about the meaning of life and why God did that to me, or what's the meaning of what is happening, comes out very often. We also ask the family whether they have spiritual, religious need in order to fulfill those needs. For example, if a family is Catholic, we know the baptism needs to be done before the baby goes, for example. Or if they belong to other religion. We have in New York, we have a lot of Jewish Orthodox, for example, and there is a special ritual when the baby is born and when the baby died. So we want to make sure that their belief is honored and to be ready at any time. We do have a chaplain working with us. There are many chaplains in the hospital, but one specifically work with us. And if they want to meet the chaplain, even during pregnancy, we are available to put them in contact. So I think for families in that situation, the spiritual need is very much strong. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many babies you've baptized?
No, but we are talking about hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds, because if I think about, I work in Italy 6 years before coming here, and I baptized many at that time. And even here, at a certain point, though, I like to teach fathers to baptize the baby, because I think it's such a great thing for them to do so. And but we are talking about hundreds, yeah.
You have lots and lots of daughters and sons, spiritual sons and daughters.
Hopefully they pray for me.
I'm certain they do. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the Memores. Tell me, how did you meet the Memores?
So I grew up in communal liberation, which is a companionship that educate me and my family, by the way, to faith, to understand that, Christ is present here and now in reality through the church. And so in our community, we just follow the church, but having a small companionship is more tangible, if you want. And so I found myself at a certain point at the end of high school where I want to live that life 24/7 because I enjoy so much being part of that community. And, when you are young, you don't think about too much, future, husband, children. You just want to have something great and to have a full life. And so I asked Father Giussani actually if I could join the Memores because they are like, adults living a 24/7 life of CL, basically. Mm-hmm. And he told me, come back when you have your degree as a medical doctor because you need to have a job to be part of. Memores Domini includes people who are working, and the mission is to witness Christ at work, not saying Christ explicitly, but just doing our job, aware memores, in Latin means those who remember God, full of the fact that He is part of my life, the part of my life, the point of my life. And so I need to have a job, and that's what happened. I did my medical school, and as soon as I graduated, I started joining. I went to live in a house in Milano with other ladies, and our rule is very, very simple. Is the rule of the Christian person. We say prayer together, and in the morning, morning prayer, evening prayer, night prayer. We go to mass every day. We have 1 hour of we call silence, basically 1 hour prayer and reflection of things that the Pope says versus our exercise, our spiritual retreat, or books by Father Giussani. And we live as families. So whether we are women together or men together, we cook for each other, we clean the house for each other. We live like a family, taking care of the need of each other.
With lay vocations,
yes.
As far as jobs. So yes. Like a religious order, but for laity.
Yes, exactly. It's like the life of the Christian.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Huh. Perhaps most of the world came to know of the Memores through Pope Benedict XVI when he became Pope Emeritus. He had a community that cooked and cleaned and lived with him in community that were his family.
Yeah. One of the ladies that was with him, she was actually in the United States for 2 or 3 years. She was a researcher at Rockefeller Center. And then she went back to Rome, and she was the medical director of a big hospital. And then when the Pope called, she dropped everything and she went in that community with him. And that's a way to serve we want to serve the church. So that's our mission.
Wow. Well, now back to the NCCP, you offer training in the model of the Neonatal Comfort Care Program. How important is it to grow the network, whether according to the model that you've established or something similar?
Our vision is that our method to take care of babies with short life will be in all the globe, basically. That's our mission. That's where we want to go. And so we are very strong in education. And we have been doing, since the very beginning, I'm talking about 2010, 2011, we have been doing workshop in our hospital. Then a few years ago, we started doing annual 3-day trainings, which are international. We did virtual during COVID time, and now we went back to in-person. And I have to say, in these years, we had professionals, obstetricians, neonatologists, nurses, doctors, social workers, etc., from almost all the states of the United States and from 19 countries, because in reality, there is nobody else teaches this discipline, if you want, which is called perinatal palliative care, which is the care starts with the mom at the diagnosis of a life-limiting condition of her baby. and goes through the delivery and later on, sometimes for years. We follow those mothers for the bereavement process, which is something that is very, very important because it's a big wound to lose a child. And so we really want to teach this. So we do this training, and people are extremely happy. Our evaluation has been beautiful, and and we'll continue.
Yeah. Do you stay in touch with families that you've worked with?
I do. And, it's amazing that most of them, they ended up then having other children, so they share the new child story. Or even though this doesn't happen sometimes, for those parents, we are the place where they can really talk about what happened at that time when they lost their child. And it's not easy, even with friends or families, relatives. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about the loss. Instead, with us, we were there at the moment. We lived together. And so for them, it's much easier to talk with us and to remember that moment, which is very painful, but it's also a moment of celebration of life, not to be forgotten.
Yeah. Many of our Soren Fellows, who are undergraduate and graduate students affiliated with the Nicola Center, there are a number of them who are, kind of in the pre-medical kind of studies, preparing to go off to medical school. If you could send a message to future doctors and nurses and people involved in healthcare, work, what might you tell them?
So, young people go into the medical discipline, whatever, nurses or doctors. I think the number one important thing is to have in mind that although they will tell you that what counts is to have success and to gain a lot of money, in reality, I teach you a way to live that profession, keeping account the true desire of your heart. The true desire of your heart, if you look into your heart, is that you do want to help people. You want to give your life for something great. And helping another human being, whether to heal them or to stay with them when life is short, is the biggest satisfaction ever. Also because we do collaborate with God in fulfill those destiny of these people. And so this is a huge honor. And so you have to keep in mind this as you go through your career. And it's very tough to be attached to the true desire that you have, this one that I just mentioned, because people will push you. You should be great, you should have success, you should publish many articles, you should do a great career, which is all good. It's not bad, actually. I am professor at Columbia University, so, but that's not my goal, really. My goal is to help those families and those babies, and the true joy comes from there. And so my suggestion is you need to stay attached to your friends, your community, people that remind you who you are and why you live for.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Parravicini, I think it's quite obvious that that's exactly what you do. So thank you for your work, and thank you for coming to Notre Dame to allow us to celebrate this great work that you're doing for babies, for families, for all the babies and families.
Thank you to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to Dr. Parravicini. In the show notes, you'll find a link to the brief film profile of her and the Neonatal Comfort Care Program that was shown at the Notre Dame Evangelium Vitae Medal Celebration this past April. Subscribe to Ethics and Culture Cast so that you can always get the latest episodes by visiting ethicscenter.nd.edu/podcast. We would love your feedback. Please review the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and email your suggestions to cecpodcast@nd.edu. Our theme music is I Don't Know by Grapes, licensed under the Creative Commons Attribution License. We'll see you next time on Ethics and Culture Cast. Until then, make good decisions.